What's up friends, it's your boy Jay, and in today's video we are going to talk about the lore of Jay and Friends. There have been quite a lot of people that have wondered how the story goes or what it is about and so on. Make sure to keep in mind that all of this is meant to be for fun, and nothing about this is real. It's fantasy related. Before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more videos like these, and turn on the notifications so you cannot miss any new uploads. So then, without further ado, let's begin and talk about the origins of Jay and Friends. Jay and Friends is a series I came up with since 2019. It follows the adventures of a young man named Jay Ridden. As you might already know, in real life I am 19. But this Jay is 18 in the series. He's also known to be the main protagonist of the series, including his family, David, Louis and John. David is a 16-year-old musician and he's Jay's best friend. They've known each other since elementary school. Louis is Jay's cousin. He's 17 years old and his main hobbies are kickboxing and breakdancing. Lastly, John is 21 years old and he's Jay's older brother. He's into gaming and sports. The four of them live in a city called Floridum Town, a place where peace, love and happiness is often shared. The city itself is usually calm and chill. Bad things barely happen there and everyone is friendly. The four main characters go on many adventures together, no matter the cost and time. They make new friends, reform society, help the weak and crush the evil. However, the lives of the citizens and the heroes aren't as easy as you could imagine. You see, their main mission is to protect Floridum Town from an evil demon god who's been seeking revenge for years. The god of Demiurge. The city wasn't safe anymore the day he showed up. That's why we are gonna go ahead and talk about who this Demiurge person is. The Demiurge is known to be the main antagonist of the series and he's a dangerous threat to society. Rumors say he's a 47-year-old god of creation and ruler of Earth, even though he's quite the opposite. Now, his backstory is so bizarre and complicated from what people have said, which is totally understandable. But there's a logical explanation about his age, except the fact that he hates humanity so much that makes him want to take over the world for a reason. The Demiurge, as mentioned, is not a normal human being, and he doesn't come from Earth, rather from a planet called Demon God Galaxy. It's a planet where many demon gods used to live in the past. He was raised by his father. There wasn't a mother, but he had a younger brother named Innocent, and a twin brother, the Destroyer. Their lives on that planet weren't that half bad. They've been learning new things every single day and had so much fun. One day, the father started acting very strange all of a sudden in front of the Demiurge. He was silent and stressed out. The reason why is because this strange game with the title, Just Kill Me 3, popped up on their planet once, which included the father's face. The game itself was an RPG where players could kill cats, in other words, demon gods, to relieve their stress. Pretty weird, though, don't you think? The Demiurge and the rest of the demon gods seemed confused as to why this game existed. The father had no choice but to manipulate humans so they could download the game and attack his own family. The Demiurge felt betrayed at this point, and sad to see his friends and brothers suffer because of the father. Deep down he felt hurt, but he decided to go ahead and kill his own father in order to save his family. So he did. As soon as his father passed away, the rest of the demon gods disappeared for no reason, including his family. Only his twin brother did not disappear. He felt scared after this massacre and ran away from the Demiurge. He was only 9 when this chaos had happened at their home planet. A couple years flew by until he found a way of leaving the planet and visit Earth, so he can make humans pay for what they've done. And that's how his backstory ends. So basically the ending is meant to say that he's going after humans for making his family suffer. Even though it was his own father who put him through all this chaos in the first place, which is messed up. And since his story continues, we are gonna talk about his so-called master plan that seems dangerous to humanity. As mentioned, he wanted to go after humans and make them pay for what they've done to his family. His plan was about turning planet Earth into a brand new demon god galaxy, and show the citizens who their true ruler is. At first, he didn't have an army in the first place according to the Florinum newspaper. Or so they thought. Rumors say he's got an entire Robocat army with over 1,000 soldiers, and 4 general soldiers. In other words, high-rank soldiers. Many speculate that the 4 general soldiers seem kind of odd, because they somehow copy personalities of Jay's 4 closest friends. That's the next part we are going to talk about right now, which is about the 4 general soldiers. The 4 general soldiers are the Demiurge's strongest pawns that he had created. In other words, they are the main source to his power. The 4 of them have different personalities and are given different jobs to do for their master, which is the Demiurge himself. The names of these powerful soldiers are Hori, Agent Albato, Cassiah, and Troy. According to the lore, back in 2019, Jay's 4 closest friends disappeared without a trace and no one couldn't figure out how or why. The 4 people that disappeared were Jake, Akril, Aaron, and Jordan. Jake Alwood was a Spanish guy who's been intrigued with science since his childhood. He was coming back from a science competition the day he disappeared. Everything seemed fine on his way home. But as soon as he got inside his house, most of the furniture seemed to be all over the place, like as if someone had broken inside while he was gone. So he called Jay to come over, and as soon as Jay got there, Jake was nowhere to be found. He completely disappeared at that point. The second one who disappeared was Akril Semino. He was a full-time spy and agent. He always worked at museums as a security guard. One day he was working at the most famous museum in Florinum town, checking on people to make sure they weren't touching anything. During a tour of 25 people inside, a random blackout had happened where all the lights had turned off all of a sudden. Screams were heard within the room. After a couple of seconds, the lights turned back on, and Akril was gone. The only thing that was left was his security suit and his name. Until then, he was never seen again. The third person who disappeared was Aaron Treber, and this one is very disturbing. Aaron was a kind and humble individual who was into parkour. He would often spend his time with Jay almost every day. He was also considered to be the town's top 5 best parkour champions. One evening, he shot himself with a gun in his own room while talking to Jay through a phone call. Jay was so shocked and had to check on him by paying his home a visit. As soon as he got there, Him and Aaron's parents saw it with their own eyes. Aaron was laying on his bed, dead, holding with a gun on his right hand. Jay was in tears, but he was brave enough to call 911. A couple minutes later, the ambulance had finally come to take Aaron with them, but as soon as they stepped foot inside his room, the body was gone, so was the gun. Aaron's parents couldn't understand how it happened. How would a person disappear if they are literally dead? Doesn't make any sense, right? Jay assumed he must have gotten taken away by someone, just like it happened to Jake and Akril. At that point he was panicking, because he didn't know who would be the next one to disappear. The next and final person who disappeared was Jordan, and his disappearance is the most cryptic of all of the rest we've talked about. Jordan McKelly was a college student who was into sports, such as basketball, soccer, and handball. Him and Jay went to the same school together. When something piqued his interest, that'd be all he focused on. During his childhood he was very intrigued with history. One day, him and Jay had a soccer match to attend. The both of them used to be soccer players in the past and wanted to share their skills with the town. They had invited most of their friends and families. Jordan was excited for the event, as he knew how strong and cool Jay would be at the match. The match was going pretty fine, until the stadium had been caught on fire all of a sudden. Everyone made sure to make it out alive. Jay did as well, except Jordan. He couldn't save him, as the fire kept getting worse. Luckily the fire department and the police came to help. They were able to stop the fire. The police made sure to investigate the stadium for Jordan as well, but as soon as they returned, they were confused. They said they couldn't find him anywhere inside. Jay then felt really uncomfortable after all these disappearances that had happened. That's basically all that happened to the four people. Now, time to get back to the general soldiers. Hori is a mad scientist and likes mixing up chemicals with any kinds of portions. His job is to visit abandoned laboratories and collect as many materials as he can for his chemicals, so he could upgrade weapons for the army. Then we have Agent Albato, who's basically a dangerous and secretive spy. His job is to visit banks and museums to steal expensive goods and diamonds. Next we have Kasaya, a wild assassin who likes having fun and messing with anyone he sees. His job is to capture humans and bring them to his master, the Demiurge. Lastly, Troy. He's a bloodthirsty and fast-killing ninja who likes killing those who stand in his way. His job is to sabotage electricities and capture Jay, so he could bring him to the Demiurge. And with all this said, we have finally come to a conclusion about the Demiurge and his army. To summarize all this and solve the mystery, the Demiurge is the one behind the disappearances of Jay's four closest friends. Think about it. He built so many robots to take over the world, but to him, the army didn't seem to be enough. So he thought of the most bizarre idea. Capturing Jay's four closest friends, turning them into robots, and lastly, going against him. According to the lore, it is assumed that Hori is Jake, Agent Albato is Akril, Kasaya is Aaron, and Troy is Jordan. And what about the army? The 1,000 soldiers? That's right, they are also human beings. People that got captured by the Demiurge and got turned into robots. Pretty insane, right? The Demiurge's own fortress is just a stepping stone, and his entire army are people that got tortured for years. Jay, his friends, and the rest of the citizens from Florinum town have no idea about the Demiurge's secret yet. Though, putting the Demiurge aside, let's get back to the main character of the series. Let's talk about Jay's backstory, which could also be a good chance to get to know him better. Before he was introduced in Florinum town, he was born in a small village called New Sunnylands. The place itself was poor, and the people who lived there barely had important things for themselves, such as money and food. Jay lived in a small family. He had parents, his 3-year-old guardian dog Rex, his cousin Louis and his brother John, which we've talked about. His father, Andrew Ridden, was a 53-year-old farmer. His mother, Anna Ridden, was a 46-year-old businesswoman. In the early days, Jay helped his father at the farm and went to elementary school to learn and make new friends. That was the time when he met David, who had the same last name as him. As they got to know each other, David mentioned how he lived close to Jay's house. Now, David was raised by his own father. His mother passed away due to a seizure after he was born. So, when Jay found out about this, he promised him he would do his best to support him with everything he had. A few months flew by until Jay and David graduated from elementary school, which was a huge success for them. David also stayed at Jay's house for a while, as his father allowed him to do anything he wanted after the graduation. Everybody's lives were going fine so far, until a few days later, Jay's parents started arguing with each other. They argued about their future and business. This only led Jay to tears, because that was the worst timing for his father to say his final words and leave the house forever. His mother felt stressed during that time, but she promised Jay she'd take good care of him and the others. Now, this is the part where something bad starts happening in the village after a couple more few months flew by. A scary-looking creature who calls himself Commander Meterex had come to New Sunnylands to cause destruction. This creature had a helmet, a silver suit, arrows, and a robo-arm that allowed him to shoot lasers at people. Every human in the village started panicking as soon as they saw him. Meterex even brought his own army with him, which made things worse. They destroyed every single building in the village and even killed many people, including David's father. Because of that, Anna Ridden had no choice but to tell Jay, David, Louis and John to get out of the village, along with their dog Rex. Before they left, she told Jay to always stand up to every evil entity they come across and never give up, no matter what happens. Jay was in tears at that point, but he also promised his mother he would do the same with everyone else. The four of them then left the village. They were able to survive and even found a place to hide. David, Louis and John were in tears because of what happened. Jay then told them to stand up and stick together, so they can find a different place to live in. They've walked through many forests for days, until they stepped foot in a place called Florinum Town, which is the city they currently live in. It was filled with many friendly people, and their first encounter was with Jake, Akril, Aaron and Jordan, who were the same age as them. By then, Jay agreed with David, Louis and John on starting to live in Florinum Town from now on, as it seemed safe. Jay's life started getting easier, as he's been having some real food, making new friends, getting educated and having their own house with Jake's help. Jay lives with David, and Louis lives with John. The four of them lived at ease by then after the terrible things that had happened in New Sunnylands. The very same night in Florinum Town, before Jay went to sleep, he thought of his mother's last words again, about the promise. That's when he decided to take martial arts classes and become a future ninja along with David, Louis and John to protect Florinum Town and its people. And that's how the backstory ends. It's kind of a sad one, but it turned out to be wholesome at the end because of his bravery and motivation. Jay has been growing nicely throughout the years in Florinum Town, and he was able to become more independent. There's also a thing people wondered about, which is about Jay's scar on the right eye. And that's actually Jay's trauma. I'm gonna go ahead and explain what really happened to Jay's eye in the first place. The day he got hurt on his right eye was right after his martial arts training. He was on his way back home. Now, during his walk, he was listening to music, and he came across a random cave he's never seen before. He started hearing sounds coming from inside it, so he decided to check out the cave. Though, he only regretted the decision he made. As soon as he got close to the cave, a yellow creature jumped out and hit Jay's eye with a sharp-looking weapon. He felt traumatized afterwards, but he was able to run away from it. The creature that attacked him was the so-called Monster King. He's one of the rarest Cyclops species due to his skin color, and he sees himself as the Lord of all monsters. In other words, small yellow Cyclops. The thing is, nobody knew who, or what, was lurking inside that cave in the first place, which means Jay was the first one to find out what it was. So because of that, people started freaking out, and decided to avoid that cave at all costs. By then, the Monster King was seen as another threat to society. It's the reason why the police had to let the citizens know to stay away from the cave. And that's all about Jay's trauma. As much as painful it sounds to him, he was still able to endure the pain on his eye. But since we made it this far with the video, I have a special thing to talk about, which pretty sure would interest you more. Besides the main protagonists and antagonists, there are more characters that live in Florinum Town, which I could introduce to you. There are popular characters that reside in the city, such as Cindy Crawford. She's known to be a famous 57-year-old woman, who's basically an American actor and model. Then there are also people like Sensei Yang, a 12-year-old comedian who enjoys performing outside during the day. Mason Moore, a 9-year-old artist, raised in a family that had passion for art. Lazarus Orrington, a 27-year-old floating magician who loves performing in front of people in the city. Lufredito Orrington, a 32-year-old spy and father of Lazarus, who likes discovering secrets of the city. High Queen Vanessa, a 30-year-old ruler of Mount Petunia, and leader of the Citadel Circus of Freaks. Falsker, a 31-year-old ruler of the Petunia Depths and Vanessa's partner. King Koala, a 33-year-old grown animal and official Prime Minister of Florinum Town. These characters that got introduced now are the most known people that everybody recognizes in the city. However, there's also a group of 3 little critters that only Jay knows, and they are the so-called little detectives of Florinum Town. Their names are Baby Koala, a 19-year-old jiu-jitsu practitioner. Daisy, an 18-year-old flower enthusiast. And lastly, Stand-Up, an 18-year-old book enthusiast. These 3 little critters are known to be the S.A.G. It stands for Secret Agency Group. They've known Jay since the very first incident that had happened since 2019. Besides characters from Florinum Town, there are also a few out there who are also related to the Demiurge. There's Innocent, a 9-year-old kitty who's the Demiurge's younger brother and the god of time. The god of Destroyer, an ancient god of annihilation and the Demiurge's twin brother. Finally, there's Massive. He's one of the Demiurge's soldiers who betrayed him one day. Speaking of villains, there are other ones out there besides the Demiurge. Commander Megarex, an evil being who wants to erase every human on Earth out of their existence. Monster King, a rare Cyclops who's known to be the Lord of Monstus and Jay's rival. General Kruger, the Monster King's #1 assistant. Sackboy.exe, an evil version of the original Sackboy and Lord of Horrors. There's more good and bad guys out there, but I could talk about that in a different video. However, there's a little creepypasta story that's been going around Florinum Town, and that's what we are going to talk about now. This one's called The Creative Demon God. It's about this little girl who lived in Florinum Town with her parents and older sister. Now, all of them used to live in peace back in 2019, but everything had changed the day the first incident had happened. People started disappearing all of a sudden, others would mysteriously die, and others would receive unknown phone calls and disappear. One day, the little girl's parents and sister had to go shopping, and they thought she was good enough to stay home alone while they were gone. She wasn't too much worried to stay home all by herself. Still, her father warned her to not pick up a random phone number if somebody calls. So her parents and sister left the house. She didn't have much things to do while they were gone, so she decided to watch some TV. About 30 minutes flew by until the phone started ringing. The number was 845-266-0901. All she did was ignoring the call, which was a good idea. Unfortunately, this only made things worse, because the number kept calling back, even if she ignored the call a couple of times. So, out of her curiosity, she decided to pick it up and find out who was on the other end of the phone. When she replied with a hello, there was nothing on the other end. Just complete static. She waited a bit longer, but then decided to end the call. She just brushed it off, thinking it was a random prank call from a stranger. So she went ahead and continued watching some TV. However, by the time her parents and sister came back from shopping, she was gone. The little girl was nowhere to be found. The only thing that was left was a voicemail from the very same number that called them before. As soon as the family heard the voicemail, they were completely shocked. The voice sounded deep. It said, "I finally found you, Brittany Walker." And that's how this story ends. Basically, it's meant to say that the Demiurge had come to their house to kidnap her after answering the phone. This is a reason why you shouldn't pick up phone calls from numbers you don't know. No one knows who's behind these, and it could also be risky. Just be careful whenever stuff like that happens to you, buddy. Ignore unknown numbers or block them. That's my recommendation. Either way, we are getting close to the end of the video. We still have to talk about 3 more things. I'll tell you a few facts about the series, starting with the good ones. Then the dark ones. There's a fun fact about Sensei Yang. Besides comedy, he likes to dance as well. You could say he enjoys dancing with Louis together, since the both of them are dancers. However, Louis is more skilled, as he's a breakdancer. Consider this as another fun fact, because Jay is also a breakdancer himself. There are tons of dancers in Florianum town. Fact about Innocent. Why is he only 9 years old and the Demiurge 47? According to their demon god rules, demon gods change their ages only when they get taller. Innocent always looked young and never grew taller ever, since his 9th birthday, which means no matter how long he keeps living, his age will stay the same. One fact about the series. It contains over 100 plus characters. The ones I introduced are not the only ones that are part of the series. Another fact that pretty sure everyone was wondering about. Why is Boyfriend and Nova from Friday Night Funkin' in Jay and Friends? Rumors say the Demiurge happened to cause a global explosion while using the staff during a fight with Jay once. And this explosion caused to open up portals for characters to fall in their own dimension that belong somewhere else. You could call this a multiverse. One last fun fact about the series. The characters you've seen also have shadow versions of themselves. I'll give you an example. This here is Lufredito's real self. That one is Shadow Lufredito. The shadow's looks depend on what the characters think of themselves. Mason thinks of himself as an artist, so his shadow's clothing is all about art. Jay likes games, and his shadow is a casino manager. Hope that makes sense. Putting the fun facts aside, let's talk about the dark facts, which are more interesting compared to the fun ones. The first one is about Jay. He's often the one who suffers the most due to the Demiurge's actions. So because of that, he always makes sure that everyone is being protected and feeling happy, while he's suffering from mental health issues. Another scary, but sad fact. The humans that are trapped inside these robots are screaming for help, but they cannot be heard from the outside. You could say they are under the Demiurge's control, and they feel tortured every day. Same with the general soldiers, who are Jay's closest friends. The next fact is really creepy, and all I can say is I hope you're prepared for it. The thing is, the Demiurge knows every human on Earth, even if he hadn't met them before in real life. Let's say, I'm friends with people like Wendy and Rainalia, or better, I make a new friend called Nero. The Demiurge would get notice of that. And the worst thing is, he would know their first name, last name, and where they live. That's how people become his new target. There are more facts about the series, but comment down below if you would like to see a part 2 of the lore. The last thing we are gonna talk about to finish this chat are the series inspirations. In other words, what inspired me to make this series. One of the most classic inspirations that inspired me to make this series is Ninjago. I used to watch that show as a kid, and it was my childhood. Another inspiration that inspired me to create the Demiurge and his 4 general soldiers are from Five Nights at Freddy's. As for the weapons and magical attacks that the characters use, are from Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball Z, Made in Abyss and My Hero Academia. The last inspiration comes from the game Persona 5. It inspired me to create shadow versions of the characters. And with all that said, we have finally made it to the end of the video, everyone. I admit, the lore sure is huge, but if you wanna hear more about it, Definitely comment down below and let me know what else you wanna learn from it. If you are new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this and turn on the notifications so you cannot miss anything. Thanks for watching everyone, see you in the next video. Love y'all.